This is what I'm going to be creating in this video. So let's get started. All right, so first thing is to get the assets for this video. So I have a link in the description where you can go ahead and download all the assets needed for this video for free. So once you have downloaded and imported the assets in DaVinci Resolve, just right click and create a new timeline. Now unselect project settings and use this vertical resolution. All right. Now drag in a fusion composition and extend it to 10 like this. Now right click and open in Fusion page. Now let's drag in a background and connect it with the media out. Now change the type to gradient, and over here, let's change the color to this color code. Make sure you copy this one. Hit OK. For this one, this side, let's add in this color code. Now I'm going to just simply drag this in this direction. And now let's go ahead add in this background. So this is the dark background, sky background. You can connect it with the background, and also make sure you select this and click on transform. Now let's increase the size so that this fits in the screen, and let's change this to 2.5. All right. Now click on your media in and press Control Space and search for grain. Now select film grain and add this. So over here, just click on time lock and change the strength to 0.3. And here you can see this is how it looks. And also change the roughness to 0.1. Now, one more thing we need to add is make sure you select your media in and press Control Space and search for blur. And over here, right now, we're just going to leave this at 0 and create a keyframe. But at 10, let's change this to 30. Now click on merge and change the apply mode to multiply. All right, and here we have our background done. All right, so next we will add in our text. So drag in this text and let's type in. I'm going to be using the Poppins font, add bold, and the size will be at 0.3. Now over at layout, I'm also going to change the Z to 13. Now let's connect the text with the merge one, and this is how it will look. Now, of course, I'm also going to change the color to this color code, and let me just slightly move this up. Also, make sure you have your text selected and press Control Space and search for glow. Change the glow size to 50 and the glow to 0.5. Now let's add in another text, and I'm going to type in this and use the font Mistral. Now this time I'm going to change the size to 0.5. Let's connect it, and also make sure you go over to the layout and change the Z to 13 as well. Now let's also change the color to this color code and also add a glow for this one as well. But this time I'm just going to copy the settings by pressing Control Space while I have this glow selected, and right click, then select Paste Settings. So the settings will be the same for both of these. All right, now let's add a fast noise connected with the merge 2, and now change the detail to 10, contrast to 0.5, keep the brightness at 0, scale at 0, angle at 0, seed at 0, but the seed rate at 1. And now let's add in another one, and this time just copy the settings from here, paste them right here, and connect this with the merge 3 for the text tool. So if you will play this right now, this is the kind of effect that you will see. So now let's add in a mask for this. I'm going to add this rectangle connected with the fast noise. And let's increase the width, change the angle to 13, and change the soft edge to 0.2. Now over here at 20, I'm going to create a keyframe at width, and then at 0, I'm going to change this to 0. Now do the same thing for this rectangle 2, angle at 13, soft edge at 0.2 all the way to the end. But this time I'm going to keep the keyframe at 30, create a keyframe at width at 30 frames, and then at 10 frames change this to 0. So if you will play this now, this is how it will look. All right, now let's add this owl and connect it with the merge 3. Now make sure you have this media in 2 selected and press transform. And make sure you change the size to 1.3, somewhere around there. Change this or move this down somewhere around here. And let's also change the angle a little bit, so at 5 maybe. And also do one thing, make sure you select your media in 2 and click on this color corrector. Now I'm going to change this to this purplish color because it matches the theme of the whole video, somewhere around here. So as you can see, it matches the theme of the video. Now let's go over at transform, and at 40, let's create a keyframe at size and center. Now go over at 0 and create another keyframe, both at size and 0. This time at 40, I'm going to change this to 1.5. And then at 0, I'm going to move this slightly out. So if you overlay this, this is how it will look. But you need to go over to spline. Make sure you only select the transform 2, which is this transform for the owl. And let's go over at displacement first of all. Make sure you unselect the size. Only go over at displacement. Just select these keyframes and hit S on the keyboard. Now move this keyframe slightly in and this one slightly in as well. So you can have this S curve. And this is how it will look. Now do the same thing for size. Make sure you unselect displacement as well. Select the keyframes, hit S on the keyboard. You zoom in by pressing Control and using your mouse scroll wheel. So you can do the same thing right here as well. Perfect. Now we need to do one more thing. Go back to the main timeline and then make sure you select your fusion composition by pressing Alt and moving your mouse at the same time so you can create a copy. So by using Alt on the keyboard and dragging the composition, you can create a copy. So the one at the bottom, right click and open in Fusion page. And this time we can just delete everything that starts from the text one and ends at this image of the owl. So press backspace and this will get deleted. We only need the background for this over here. Now go back to the main timeline, press on this one, right click over here and then go to open in Fusion page. Now for this one, I'm going to delete this side over here, this background image over here, and then go over to the background as well and change this to solid color and change the alpha to 0. All right. Now, if you go back to the main timeline, you will see that we get the same thing. But the reason we are doing it this way is so that we can move only this owl and the text without affecting the background. Now, press your merge 4 and then click on transform. Now over here at 70, create a keyframe at center, and then at 80, let's just move this out of the screen like this. Now go over at settings and click on motion blur. Change the quality to 5 and let's play this. So this is the kind of transition you can say we will get. All right, so now let's go over to this background composition, you can say, but make sure that you only go where this is ending. So right here at 2.20, or you can say 2.2, we're getting this motion blur. So right click on the composition at the bottom, open in Fusion page, and over here, let's make sure that you select your merge one and press Control space. Now search for radial blur. Create a keyframe at 0. So make sure the smooth strength is at 0. And at 70, create a keyframe. All right. Now at right here between, you can say 75 over here, you can just change this to 0.5. 7. And then at 80, change this back to 0. So this is the kind of effect that you will get in the background. Now over here, we're going to drag in this dark background image and connect it right here with the radial blur. And you will get this merge automatically added, so you don't need to worry about that. Right now, just click on this merge tool and change the size so that this fits the background, as you can see over here. Now go to apply mode and change this to hard light. All right, but before we do that, we need to do one more thing, which is to add a transform over here right after radial blur. So make sure you click on transform, so this will get added. And over here, right where we have this transformation at 80, let's create a keyframe at size and center. And then at 90, let's just zoom this in and change the position as well. So somewhere around here, you can just move this. And if you play this right now, this is how it will look. But you need to go over to spline and make sure you only select this transform tool and only displacement. So select your keyframes, hit S on the keyboard, and once again, just move these in slightly. Now do the same thing for the size as well, just slightly. And if you play this, this is how it will look. Now for this media in 2, which is the image, the background image that we have, now select image plane 3D. So make sure you have this selected and then click on it so that this can get connected. And also make sure you select this or click on this and press Control Space and search for render 3D. So this will also get attached and now you can connect it with the media merge tool. Now click on image plane 3D and from here you can go over to transform and increase the Z so that this fits in the screen. And now let's go over here somewhere around 90 or you can say 100. So let's go over at 100, click on merge tool and then create a keyframe at gain, but this time at 0. Move one keyframe ahead and change this to 1. Then one keyframe ahead, change this back to 0. Then move two keyframes ahead and change this to 1. Once again, move one keyframe ahead, change this to 0 and do this a couple of more times so that you can get a nice effect. So I think this will be okay. And if you play this, this is how it will look. So now let's go over to image plane 3D and then at 110 frames, you can create a keyframe. But first of all, let's change some settings at rotation. So let's change the Z to, let's say 25. And let's change the Y somewhere around here at 25 as well. And let's see where the X comes in. So the X looks okay at 5. All right, now let's create keyframes for these 3. Then all the way to the end where the fusion composition is ending. Let's start changing the Z to, let's say, -15. Then also the Y, you can change this to -20. And the X as well, you can change this to -5. So if you will play this now, you will get a kind of 3D look for this. Now let's add a text. And this time I'm going to type in this. And the font will be at Poppins as well. But this time I will change this to black and change the size to 0.3. Now let's connect it with the merge tool. And also I'm going to change the color to this color code and also add in a glow. Change the glow size to 80 and glow to 0.5. Now let's do the same thing like we did before, just add in a fast noise connected with the merge of that text. Change the detail to 10, contrast to this time 0.7. Keep the brightness at 0, scale at 0, fill 0, C3 0, but the seed rate at 1. And if you play this, you get the same effect. Now add in this rectangle connected with the fast noise, change the width, and also make sure you move the text somewhere right here. somewhere right here. All right. But now let's also add in our image for this person and connect it. And make sure you add in a transform for this. Change the angle to, let's say, 1.5. Move this up somewhere around here. And then go over to the text, and now you can adjust this. Now make sure you select the rectangle as well, and then move this up so that this is visible. And this is also visible. All right. Now let's go over to the rectangle and create a keyframe at 110. For this rectangle, add width, but change this to 0. And also make sure you keep the soft edge at 0.2. Now go over to 130 and change the width to 1. Now add 150, create another keyframe, and then at 160, change this back to 0. So if you will play this, this is how the text looks. Now for this image over here, let's create a keyframe at 105 at center. Then at 120, create another keyframe. Now the one at 105, let's move this out of the screen. And then add 140, create another keyframe at center. And this time go over to 150 and then move this out of the screen from this direction. So go over to spline and only select the transform for this image, which is the transform 3. So make sure you have this. And now over here, let's select these keyframes, which is the one from 105 to 120, and hit S on the keyboard. And also make sure you move this in like this. And then go over to these keyframes as well and hit S on the keyboard and do the same thing. Now let's add in a transform after merge 4. Now at 105, make sure you create a keyframe at center and size. And at 130, let's zoom into, let's say 1.2 or let's say 1.3. And also let's move this slightly down like this. Now at 140, let's create a keyframe at size and center. And then at 150, let's move these back to the original position, which is at size at 1 and then center Y at 0.5. So if you play this, this is how it will look. But you need to go over to spline and do the same thing for transform 4 as well. So unselect size and then select these. First of all, hit S on the keyboard. Do the same thing right here for both of these keyframes. All right, and now let's do the same thing for size as well. So first of all over here, and you can always zoom in so that this is precise. You can do this precisely. And finally this one. So now let's see how this looks. Perfect. Now we're going to do one final thing, which is to add another fusion composition right here at 7. So let's add this composition, and then at 720, we're going to end this. Now let's right click and head over to this fusion composition, add a background and change the color to this one. Connected with the media out, and also add this polygon connected with the background. Now let's go ahead, add in some lines over here like this. So you can start creating some lines like this. All right. And now let's create a keyframe at 0 at border width, which will be at 0. And make sure you unselect the solid. Then go over at 10 and change this all the way to 0.03. 0.003. And make sure you select your background and press Control Space, search for glow. Change the glow size to 100 and the glow to 0.9. Now let's go back to the polygon and let's change this border width to 0.03, or let's increase this to 0.15. I think this looks okay. So if you will play this, this is how it will look from here. And then at 10 frames, let's create a keyframe at position and then all the way to the end, change the position to 1. So this is how it will look. Now let's go back to the main timeline and see how this looks. Now over here in the main timeline, go over to this composite and change the composite mode to hue. So if you will play this now, this is how it will look. And from here, you can just simply decrease this or fade out this at the end. So this is how it will look. So this is it for this video. I hope you found this video useful and I will see you in the next one.